The American people, if you put it to them about socialized medicine and gave them a chance to choose, would unhesitatingly vote against it. If you don't, this program, I promise you, will pass just as surely as the sun will come up tomorrow. And behind it will come other federal programs that will invade every area of freedom as we have known it in this country. Until, one day, as Norman Thomas said, we will awake to find that we have socialism. And if you don't do this, and if I don't do it, one of these days, you and I are going to spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it once was like in America when men were free.
"50 years ago, Rubicon was one of 4 programs that the county had decided to fund with this new federal money in 1972, because at that point, the hospitals were being emptied. Where would all those people go?
What happened during the Reagan administration as governor of California was they essentially closed the mental health inpatient psychiatric facilities. There was no infrastructure in place for providing supports to those folks.
It created the need because now you have all these people who still need support, who aren't getting it. That then creates the conditions for organizations like Rubicon to try to figure out how to help and support those folks.
About the time Rubicon got started, I had been elected to the Berkeley City Council from the movements of the 1960s. And we were looking for a way to think globally, act locally. And of course, Rubicon was an example of that.
There was a nonprofit organization that was formed in 1970 called Community of Concern. And out of that came Rubicon.
And these were all reputable people who felt the need to bridge the gap between the closing of the hospitals and helping the communities deal with this onslaught that they were not prepared for. And the reason they called it Rubicon, it represented a point at which, if you committed, there was no turning back. You know, once you start this journey, it's irrevocable.
And then in parallel with that, we created housing because it became clear how could you help people with mental health issues unless you gave them a sense of meaning in their life and also a place to live. We developed housing program hand in hand with the state and the federal government. And Rubicon Homes, which still stands in North Richmond, the only HUD project ever approved with greenhouse windows. We were one of 10 national demonstration projects selected at the end of the Carter administration to build housing. We were invited to the White House. That was special.
So at a certain point in the later 80s, Rubicon went beyond mental health. It started because the participants wanted to work. They couldn't get jobs. So we created a vehicle to allow people to work, and that was the gardening center. We had the landscape business, we had the home health care agency, and then we had the bakery.
It started as a cafe, food service, and the cafe at the Civic Center.
It was a little back office, and it was just an experiment. Not even half a dozen people who worked in the bakery. It was a very small-scale operation, and fairly quickly, we were starting to grow, we were starting to expand, secured significant amount of funding to be able to build out the bakery, and we moved in. The greatest differentiator for Rubicon is it was always willing to take chances, it always thought 2 steps ahead. It always imagined what was possible, even though people would say nonprofits can't do it, they would do it.
The whole notion of social entrepreneurship, I don't think that was a term back then. Necessity is the mother of invention, right? We had limited access to funding for our various programs, it became pretty clear that if we created a business not just as a training facility, but as a place that actually was a business that made a little bit of profit, we could recycle that money into services and programs.
I think that's a really important feature of what Rubicon's done. It's not just to help people with supports during their difficult times, but also to put them on a path forward with a job and support them with that job.
It gives people who have had no job history or have had sporadic job history an opportunity to have a supportive environment to be successful in the workplace.
Dreams aren't meant to be slept on, even though when we sleep, we dream. We can all achieve all of our dreams. It starts here with us. Always remember, never give up. Push yourself, never get stuck. Aim for the stars, remember it's up. Even when you down, you gotta get up. I heard y'all winners that never gave up. We built a little family, now we stuck. We all been through so much pain, we almost drowned in the rain. But just like the storm, it's over now. We grew much stronger, wiser, caring, and so determined. Tell yourself every day, I can do it. I will achieve it. I have dreamed it. I have dreamed it.
We were a mental health agency, and then we transitioned to a combination of doing both workforce and mental health. And part of that transition was moving us more and more into let's do the workforce services, let's help people get employment and so forth. And that really has changed the focus over the years of what our work is.
At one point, the agency took a look at what we were doing, and out of that strategic planning process, they made the decision to end mental health services, partly due to funding.
Part of that decision also was about Rubicon was doing so many different things. So we had mental health, we had employment services, workforce services, we had landscape, most of that time we had health, we had housing. So it was really hard to even define who we are and what we are. So part of it was, let's get more focused and let's not be so spread out.
Around 2015, we made a really intentional effort to look at how we could be most effective in breaking poverty, looking at criminal justice, disproportionate incarceration of Black and brown people, particularly men. It was a natural focusing our lens on anti-racism work.
We realized after years of being a more traditional way of addressing workforce, addressing employment, that didn't always work. We would see the now adult child of somebody we served 15 years ago, and they're in the same situation as their parent was.
Really recommitting to breaking poverty, we saw that we could not do that unless we really leaned into addressing structural racism in the organization as well as in the community.
What stands out to me about Rubicon is that they embarked on a really courageous journey to basically say, wait a minute, what is our mission? What is our purpose? And are we really organized in such a way that is fulfilling that? They named anti-racism in their work well before anybody else did, pre-racial reckoning George Floyd.
Where we're seeing our shift in attention and resources is really around the systems and the narrative change. The families and individuals who are navigating and trying to overcome poverty and poverty situations, it's not on them individually. In order for us to move the needle even further, we have to broaden our gaze and our efforts outside of that individual. So that means being at the partnership tables, that means being at coalition tables, to be really a part of that systems change and narrative change as it relates to how our communities are resourced, whether that's employment, whether that's education, whether that's safe communities and parks and outdoors. All of those things are relevant to economic mobility.
It is important for organizations like Rubicon to have a seat at the table and help influence policy. I've seen our state legislators, as well as local officials in cities and counties, respect Rubicon because they see it's effective and they speak with community values. And that's why they are really effective.
I had a seat at the table, and that's always been one of the rubs about, racial parity, seats at the table. You have a lot of people who say good things and they talk the talk, but you don't have a lot of people who walk that walk, which is to make sure that people like me and people like you have a place and have a voice at the table.
We have been most successful in getting people into work and keeping them in work and having them advance to higher levels of employment and delivering quality services to them and to their families. One of the best ways in which we can see what's happening at Rubicon is through our stepping stone ceremonies, where people are graduating through the initial stage of their work with Rubicon, and just to see what kind of changes are happening in those people's lives, the sense of opportunity and possibility that comes through spending time at Rubicon, working with our staff, seeing and assessing their own lives and seeing what opportunities lie before them is an incredibly inspirational and emotional moment for them to set out on a new course for their lives going forward.
The whole Rubicon facilities has really assisted me. I was fascinated once I got involved with Rubicon, all the activities that they had. They give you work clothes, they give you boots, they gave me a laptop computer. You name it, it's there for you. It's there for you. But you got to have the motivation to go. You got to have the want to change. Change comes from within. You have to want it. They there for you. Any direction you want to go in, they're there. They're very supportive.
We are human. We are flawed. We all make mistakes. None of us are the worst thing we've ever done. We are so much more than that, and I think Rubicon fundamentally understands that and listens deeply to build trust.
The impact that they've been able to have on families locally, particularly in West Contra Costa, is phenomenal. Using the services, the work of the staff, it hasn't changed at this point. So the ability to continue to adapt but stay focused on services and programs that help people.
Partnerships is a key theme for Rubicon. We can't do everything on our own, and we're not going to try to do everything on our own. We can't be the best at everything. It's willingness to have the humility to say, here's a partner in the community that can do something better than what we can do.
These are resources in our backyard that are so underutilized. And so part of the vision of Rubicon being a safe place, a community of connection, is how do we support and bridge a gap for people in community who might need these resources, who may be unaware or just unsure of how to navigate them. Those are the partnerships that are critical. There are a lot of people at the table making decisions or trying to put things in place, but if we don't have the voice of community or the experience of the community and participant leaders, then we're missing something. Those are the most critical partnerships. It's continuing to partner with community members about what they need and what's going to be the best way for them to increase their access to what they need.
The county has been fortunate to have a great partnership with Rubicon over the decades. They can do a lot of really important work, in many cases more effectively than the public system can.
A lot of times people do great work for a few years and then they peak or they go out of existence, but not Rubicon. It seems to continue to grow and do wonderful work, and we're so fortunate here in the East Bay to have Rubicon, being part of us and making our community so much better.
What I think is quite remarkable is that Rubicon grew and changed and innovated and got bigger and more successful, and now truly is a model of what things can be.
Our job is to do whatever we can to be the equalizer and to do whatever we can to give people a first chance and a second chance, to give people the training. Their job is to show up and do what they need to do for themselves. Our job is to do whatever we can to make it possible for them to succeed. It's just like all of us. We all need a job, we all need a place to live, and we all need a community to be a part of. There's no secret beyond that. It's just realizing everybody needs it in a somewhat different way, and our job at Rubicon is to make sure that the folks who are walking in our door have access and the means to succeed.
This is the first time I ever kept money in the bank. You know, keeping money was something foreign to me. I have my own place for 2 years now since I've been out. Getting up every morning, going to work, coming back home, and, fixing my own dinner and having my own house. I never dreamed this. I never dreamed that, I've been in the position that I am today. If you want to succeed in life, whatever you want to do in life, this would be a great start for you right here in this program. This program has a lot to offer. They have a lot of support here. There's a lot of love and care that comes from this place.
Rubicon is 50 years old. Hopefully Rubicon has 50 plus more years ahead of us. And I just want to express appreciation from all of those that came before me that contributed to this quilt that I inherited. It just adds to the experience of privilege that I have. And so just excited to see what comes next. Rubicon will transform the East Bay when we all have access to a living wage.
When we all can treat one another more kindly.
When we all recognize ourselves and one another.
When we all put our self-credit and turf aside and work together with the community.
When we all recognize and respect each other's innate dignity as human beings.
When we all realize we're in this together.
When it puts itself forward as a model that transforms business so that we all do business as if people matter.